This past weekend, my brother and sister-in-law sent me, oh, it's going to be backwards. Never mind. Anyway, it's a comic. They were clearing out more stuff at my mom and dad's house. And this is a comic that looks like someone sent to me that is called Nikki for girls. So this, I think, is from early 80s magazine, maybe late 80s, middle, who knows. And what's interesting, it says Nikki, and then there's Rebel. And the whole comic, like there's a story about a rebel. And what really struck me is like one, how long ago it was that I really connected with this idea of being rebellious or a rebel. Um, and and one thing was this comic was like just a quick reminder of that. And then I was thinking about when I left home early. I've got actually a little video of my mom talking about when I left home, and I'd like to share that at some point. But I was leaving home because I realized that I was not connecting with the path that I thought that everyone wanted me to be on, and I wanted to do something a little bit different. Punk rock was a big thing. It was coming about. There was a lot of pushback against conservatism, Mrs. Thatcher. And at the same time, I was coming out, right? I was coming out as a young queer woman at a time where it was getting more and more conservative, but at the same time, all this activism happening and punk rock and this like idea of just being like not having to play by the rules or be a rule follower. And so I did leave home when I was 17, almost 18. I lived, first of all, lived with someone who was my dance teacher. I had gone to dance classes and was a dance teacher. And then I moved from there into a squat. So this is actually what my mom talks about. So there was a big movement in Bristol, which is where I'm from, of people taking over buildings that were empty and squatting them and then creating living communities that people could live in. And there was actually a company or a nonprofit that worked with squatters and the owners of those buildings or the city to organize short-term leases. So there was a nominal rent that was paid. So squatting became sort of it became much easier to do because there was this company that, or nonprofit, I should say, that like intervened and dealt with making sure that you had places to go. So I lived in this squat with probably about 8 other people. We each had our own rooms. We would cook communally. Some of us were working, some of us were not working. And so we would put into a kitty to make sure that everyone got fed. Um, for some reason, one of us was connected to a bike shop. And so a company used to bring BMX bike wheels to our squat, the spokes, the rims, and we would put together these BMX bike wheels and we would get paid by the wheel that we put together. And then the guy who worked at the bike shop would like make sure that they were true and running true, and then they would come pick them up and we would get paid. And so it was a time of, even though there was like a lot of rebellion and there was a lot of pushing against authority in the system, there was also this idea of building community and creating a community where everyone got to um, have a role and a place in that, and accountability to one another. And from there, I went back to school eventually as a student to do youth and community work. But there's always been like this rebellious side of me that has asked questions and been really curious. And it's funny because I sort of now trace it back to my mom and dad, who, when I was in school, would say to me, if you don't know and you're not sure, ask a question because guaranteed there's someone else in the classroom or in that space that is also thinking and has the same question. And that's the way that you learn is by asking questions of what is happening, what you don't understand, why something doesn't fit for you. That's how you get to grow and learn from others, and they get to learn from you. And so I feel like there's been this theme of rebelliousness or rebellion all the way through. When I first started my coaching work, I know that every single time that I was doing anything that was imagining what that might look like, it was all connected to being rebellious. Although the other thing what was here in the States, like being a rebel has like completely different connotations to being rebellious or a rebel in England. So I sort of went with that, but I think what it is really more connected to this idea that we can make bold moves, we can make decisions, we can make informed decisions, but we can also question what's happening around us. And I think when we question things, we're able to, well, I know for me, what I'm able to do is I'm able to like look at all angles rather than just one straight blinkered look. I get to look at, okay, what would it look like from this angle? What would it look like from this person's perspective? What would it look like if I approach this not from a place where I don't have, but a place where I have everything, right? And so I think rebellion for me has stayed all the way through. It's connected to being being able to push yourself through fear and be courageous even when it feels uncomfortable. It's also for me, it's this whole idea of being able to stick up for the principles and values that are really important to you, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it makes you unpopular. And so I sort of realize now that this has been a theme like all the way through my life. It still is when I think about talking about bold moves. Bold moves are the times that you get to take an action even though it's uncomfortable. And so I think about those are multiple times in my life, like when I think about leaving home, when I think about coming out, and coming out is like was not a process that was just like one time. Coming out was multiple times because every single group that I went into or workplace that I went into, I had to make decisions about is it safe? And even if it's not safe, who are my allies and who needs to hear that what is happening in this moment not only makes me uncomfortable, but would make any young person who's working in the space who happens to be questioning their sexuality really uncomfortable as well. And so I have been really embracing again, like this idea that we can like not do what everyone else is doing and still be moving forward. We can also, I think I was watching Trevor Noah, um, his new special, and he was talking about that just because there's big, I can't remember the exact phrasing, but it's something like if there's big problems, it doesn't mean that there's small moments that we can't take, or something. It's something like basically we could get caught up in the big mess of the world, but there's all these small moments of action, of communication, of connection with other human beings or other people from different parts of the world that can really change our world and change their world.